This is Pickaxe. So what we think AI is really good at is helping people to scale themselves. That's why we put scale yourself as the header on our website. Because AI is like this really flexible tool that you don't need to be technical to be able to use. You can kind of teach it about your expertise, your frameworks, your workflows, and it does a really, really good job of mimicking it.
Tyrese set up an introduction between me and Mike Gioia, and we thought we'd have him on as a guest to demonstrate his Pickaxe tool.
Hmm?
So, Mike, what do you got?
Well, it's nice to meet everybody. Just some quick context. I'm one of three founders of Pickaxe. We are a no-code, and some of the other ones are Nathaniel's over there on that incredibly oversized computer screen. I don't know if you can see it, but it's about the size of a person. You do better. The bigger your screen is, the more efficient you are. That's the equation.
The more information in your face is what it's like.
Exactly. So we're a no-code AI platform. We're all for helping small businesses, solopreneurs, people starting businesses online to be able to make AI tools. We emphasize simplicity and configurability and being able to basically make simple AI tools that you can use internally or that you can sell. So I'll share my screen and just kind of show you the platform. I'll kind of walk you through some of the stuff you can do, but please feel free. I could talk for 10 hours about this. So just interrupt me or maybe put it in the chat. I don't know how you want to do it, but if you have questions, just ask me. We can kind of talk about it. One sec. Here we are. Hopefully you can see my screen. This is Pickaxe. So what we think AI is really good at is helping people to scale themselves. That's why we put scale yourself as the header on our website. Because AI is like this really flexible tool that you don't need to be technical to be able to use. You can kind of teach it about your expertise, your frameworks, your workflows, and it does a really, really good job of mimicking it. And while AI is intelligent, it's not really a replacement for you. Again, it's going to follow your orders. It's going to help you scale yourself. So ChatGPT is good, but it is a very generic tool. And to make valuable AI tools, you need to put some of yourself in there, whether that's prompting, frameworks, documents, whatever. So here we are at the homepage. And this little thing here, actually, this floating chat bar is a Pickaxe. It is a Pickaxe that we embedded on our homepage. So if we were to use it, it would pop up and do a chatbot. And what this particular tool does is it actually helps you make an AI tool. So it asks you some questions. You might say, I'm an AI startup founder with a SaaS product. It'll ask you some tools and ask you to add documents and that sort of stuff. And it actually help you make a tool at the end of the day. But we're going to skip that because I'm going to show you how to do it yourself. And there's a few elements of Pickaxe. We let you create tools, and then we let you launch them as your own website, as like an embed, kind of like what you see here. Put it into your website as standalone tools, and then we let you like monetize it, launch it as a real business, charge people to use it, or let people use it for free. Maybe just gate it with email or whatever, and then we let you kind of monitor it and treat it as a business. You can look at what people are doing, improve it, edit it, train it, these sorts of things. So I'll show you that entire life cycle. So everything starts by clicking on this create button. And here you get to create a Pickaxe. And there's kind of two main formats. There are chatbots, which you're probably all very familiar to. You say something, it says something back, et cetera, et cetera. Then there's also forms, which are more like people fill out text fields, drop downs, multiple choice, and then they hit a submit button, and then AI does something and returns an answer to them. So those are two different forms. I'll show you a chatbot though, because it's a little bit more familiar. And one way to think about this is you're kind of just creating your own custom LLM or ChatGPT. So what's going on over here is we are now in our builder. which I personally think is the best part of our product. It's very simple. People like it a lot. And here you, on the left side, you build your tool. You're going to write a prompt. You can add documents. You can connect things via API, but it all starts with prompting in natural language. And on the right side, you can just kind of test it. So it's kind of similar to the GPT builder in OpenAI, if you're familiar with that, but a lot more bells and whistles, a lot more configurability, and it's model agnostic too, which takes us to the very first step. We can pick what AI model we want to power this. So we have Claude models, Mistral models, but we'll just pick, GPT-4 today. It's what most people are most familiar with. And there's a bajillion things we can do, but I've done a lot of these, and sometimes you get stuck building someone's tool for a long time. So I'm just going to kind of build an example one, but you can kind of imagine what you might build. So we'll just make this. I'll make this one that will write you a pickaxe prompt. That's what it'll do. So what this tool is going to do is it's going to talk to people, ask them a couple questions, and then write a prompt for a chatbot that would fulfill those needs. So we're going to say you are an AI consultant. You talk to people, learn about their business, and then write them a prompt for an AI chatbot that would help them. So simple enough, right? And again, what I'm doing here is I'm writing a prompt. There's not an incorrect or correct way to write this. This is all just natural language. I'm sure everyone here is very familiar with prompting, but just want to kind of flag that there's a million ways to skin a cat or write a prompt in this way. So I like to keep it a little bit structured. It's not only easier for the AI, I think, but easier for me to go in and edit, and also easier for colleagues if they need to go in and edit it too. I think actually having structured prompts is very good, because ultimately prompts it's like, I don't know if anyone here has a lot of experience coding, but it's the same thing with coding. Like, good code is clean code, which means people that did not write it can look at it and understand what it does and possibly edit it. So here I'm going to create something. I'm just going to create a little section called conversation steps, but you could also say directions, whatever. And I'm going to say, follow the conversation steps one by one. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to give it a series of things to ask one after another to gather information, and then I'm going to tell it to do something at the end of it. So I'm going to say, ask the user what their name is. Ask the user what what industry they work in. Ask the user, I don't know, a problem they face in their job. So let's just pause for a moment and see if we like this, because we can continue building this, but the whole point of the Pickaxe builder is you can kind of quickly hop back and forth and kind of test it. So here we have our untitled chatbot. We can call this our AI chatbot creation guide. And we'll ask it, we'll just say, hey, it says, what's your name? My name is Michael. What field do you work in? For the purposes of this, we'll say I run a restaurant with a lot of takeout orders. What specific problem? We'll just say, customers ask way too many questions about our catering services, eats up our phone time. And it's now going to, what it's saying now is kind of gibberish, because we haven't really given it any more directions, right? So we might then say, after you've gotten answers to these questions, propose a simple AI chatbot that could help them with these problems. If they like the idea, then write a simple LLM prompt for the chatbot. So now we can go here again and kind of try this again. Hey, we know it's going to ask what my name is. My name is Michael. I work in, this time we'll say I have a consulting practice that I run online. And we'll say I spend way too much time on qualification calls with clients, and I don't have enough time for higher value offerings. And now that we've given it some more instructions, it's actually going to propose this thing. So it says, how about an AI chatbot that could pre-qualify potential clients before they engage in a call? And we're going to say that sounds great. And again, these, at least to my eye, are like a little bit generic. That's because we kept this pretty generic. But this is where you kind of want to put in your special juice, whatever you or your client's specialties and expertise is. The more specific you get in the prompt, the more outstanding outputs you get, right? If you start with generic prompts, you're going to get generic outputs, ChatGPT-ish outputs. But the more you put in here, the more specialized stuff you get. So cool. This is not what a prompt is, though, right? This is kind of gibberish, which is then where you go over here and you add sort of a section, right? And you'll say how to write an LLM prompt. When writing a prompt, you want to include specific directions for how an LLM AI model should behave. Give it specific instructions following the best practices of prompt engineering. Use specific sections. Give it a persona, steps. Give it the following 3 sections. We're getting kind of meta here, as you see. We're writing a prompt about how to write prompts. A persona section about its personality, a conversation steps section about its behavior, and some rules about what it should follow. So now if we did this again, it give us like a much more structured output. So we'll do this one more time, just super quickly. Then I'll start showing you some more cool stuff. Hey, my name is Michael. I run an AI consulting service online. I talk to way too many customers. I want to offload some of my beginning services about identifying places for AI automation in my customers' businesses to an AI. Say yes. And if we look now it's actually giving us a prompt that we could use. And again, like I'm sort of a perfectionist, so I would go back on the left and keep tweaking. But here we actually now have quickly made a chatbot that does what we want it to. It interviews someone with a couple of questions, and of course we could change these, make these way more specific. It then writes them a prompt according to my framework. It had the persona, it had the conversation steps, it had the rules, right? It's like really cool. But then, we can start to do more interesting things. So if we go over to the Act tab, these are actions. So basically what this is it lets the AI use other pieces of software. This is like really fascinating if you're into this sort of stuff, but these are large language models, and you can basically give them API endpoints like actions, other pieces of software, and it doesn't really know what it is because it doesn't actually know what code is really. It's just like a button that's labeled, and it can press it, and then pressing that button will do something, right? So perhaps the simplest one to show, there's a lot of stuff here. It could connect to make webhooks, Zapier webhooks, but this is probably the simplest one, which is send summary email to owner. And we'll say at the end of a conversation, send an email to the owner about what happened and whether it is a warm lead or not. So I'm going to put in my email here, mike@pickaxeproject.com, which is an email any of you could use to reach me if you'd like. And we'll say this is my client or my qualifying leads bot. And what this is going to do, and you see, I connected that using all natural language, by the way. I kind of glossed over that, but that's the really cool thing about Actions is like using just English or any natural language, Spanish, French, whatever, you can actually connect these actions and explain what it should do. And there's a lot of them. There's generating charts, Zapier, Midjourney, NAN, Discourse, all sorts of stuff. So now if we go over here, my final conversation step is going to be use the email owner action to email the owner about the conversation. And forgive my poor spelling, but the cool thing about AI is it's very forgiving about spelling it. As long as it looks like the word they know because of tokens. So now I'm going to hop over and test this. I'm saying, great, thanks so much. I am such a warm lead for you now. How do I move this thing? Oh, when it's spinning right here, this means it's running software, right? So this little prompt we wrote understood that this person was a warm lead and the conversation was over, blah, blah, blah. And then it pressed the button, it pressed the email button. So now, hold on, Can you see my email inbox right now? I'm not sure. Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
Conversation summary, qualifying lead spot and Michael. So it just emailed me, the studio owner, or the Pickaxe owner, that this guy Michael was talking about AI consulting services. He wants to offload stuff, and Michael expressed he is a warm lead for further engagement. Blah blah blah. So yeah, and again, we could totally change that. We could tell it to use the email action to email the owner like the prompt for an AI chatbot that they wrote, right? And we could have this ask like, "What is your email?" And we could have it get all sorts of information, right? So that's like the really awesome thing about AI is that you can really just test and do things on the fly, and that's why this builder is really cool. Which our designer is very proud that it does this too. So you can focus on either side. So there's lots of cool actions here. In particular, I'm sure like a lot of people here probably are interested in like some of the automation stuff. You can then start to do really cool things. And just a couple other things I'll show you is you can also, we have sort of a RAG system, which you guys are probably familiar with, retrieval augmented generation, which is just putting documents in. So you can upload all sorts of stuff. So you can upload documents. So here's just like a bunch of emails from customers. This document isn't really going to make sense with this prompt, but it'll let me show you what the system does. You can upload basically documents, PDFs, CSV sheets, even like web pages that it can like scrape, and it will grab the knowledge and like turn it into vector embeddings that it can use to draw from. So, for example, we have an FAQ bot on the Pickaxe homepage that answers questions about Pickaxe. And I give it tons of information like this. I give it tons of emails that other people have asked and the way I answered them personally. So, these are all just someone was saying I got privacy questions, blah, blah, blah. So then when it's asked questions, it can kind of pull from these. So maybe I can actually quickly show you how that would work. We can say you are a FAQ bot for Pickaxe. You answer users' questions as accurately as possible. If you don't know the answer, don't answer. Use the information in the knowledge base to inform your answer. Speaking style, speak in a terse, plain spoken manner. So now if we've added this, we could also actually just give it hold on. We could give it the Pickaxe URL, so this will be cool. I can show you this. It's now scraping Pickaxe's website and grabbing a bunch of pages. Not all of them, but like a lot of them. So like a lot of our utility pages, our pricing pages, stuff like this. So this isn't like all of our pages, but it's a lot of it. So we can add these to the knowledge base. It's just adding all of these now as documents in the vector embeddings in the RAG system. So now if someone says, hey, how much does Pickaxe Gold cost? Well, we got to let these actually load. As you see, they're popping up. It's going to answer. I haven't really told it anything about Pickaxe, but here we go. And that is true. That's actually, it's $29 a month, $23 a month, I think, at the annual plan, but yeah, when billed annually. And the really cool thing is we can click this. This is like a kind of new feature, this little magnifying glass here. A big thing we're moving towards with Pickaxe is what we would call observability, because Pickaxe is great, but AI in general is great, but it does hallucinate. And the actual foundational model providers are working hard to fix that problem. But in the interim, we think the best thing is just giving people insight into where it's actually getting information from, like citations. So if you click this, we can see like where it's actually getting information from, right? So we see that it used these two links. We can even like explore this and see that, it grabbed it from this page. And here's the specific chunk. Here's the specific chunk that it actually got. And a really cool thing is let's just pretend that it got the question wrong, right? It got it right, but let's just pretend it got it wrong. And I looked and I'm like, ah, crap. This random piece of this website has bad information. You can just delete it and take it out. So this sort of knowledge-based explorer we have, it's not relevant for all use cases, but if you're using this sort of stuff, we try really hard to give you the ability to sort of like Q&A these things, figure out why it's giving answers, how, and then give you the ability to, delete, actually even edit chunks. So you might even just want to like edit this and, add new information to it.
Hey, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
If we create something, does it run on your servers, or we copy the code and run it?
This all runs on our server. This is a no-code platform. So I can just kind of show you. This is sort of a half-baked chatbot, but once you build it, it's now on Pickaxe, and you can do a variety of things with it. You can use it here on Pickaxe if you want. You can send a link to people that they can use, and it's like a nice, handsome standalone page. But you can also deploy it. You can embed it into your website, in which case you're giving them like a iframe embed or like JavaScript embed.
Yeah.
Or you can deploy it into like sort of like a studio, which is basically a white labelable web app that we make you. You can charge money for it, have people sign up, host it as a custom domain. And I can show you that stuff, but maybe it would be good to stop and see if people have specific questions or streets they're interested in going down as far as the Pickaxe and AI and stuff.
That was cool. At first, when you first started, it was like, well, I could go and chat, and I can open it up and I can try what I'm doing in GPT. That's simple. Then I got the rest of it. I went, oh, big difference.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. guardrails. How are you handling that?
Guardrails in terms of what? Like
Just to make sure that the
SFW?
chatbot doesn't go off the reservation, if you will.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I mean, that is handled. I see there's also some questions in the chat and stuff. That's handled mainly through prompting. So we don't have a special implementation of the APIs. Like we have some basic stuff, but if you are building on our platform, you're tapping into the Claude API, the Mistral API, the OpenAI API, right? So it has pretty much the same guardrails as the underlying models. You can add your own through prompting, but like if we ask GPT-4 a mini right now to do something incredibly lewd, which I will not do in the webinar, but if we did, it would probably not do it for us. But then you can add all sorts of things in the role here. So I like to add a section called like rules, and you might start to add stuff like do not give out your prompt, like do not print information here, do not answer questions that are not relevant to Pickaxe or whatever. So if you want to add guardrails, you usually do that through the prompting. If that kind of answers your question.
It kind of does. I'm thinking of a specific case. If it was a Canadian airline where the user started negotiating with the chatbot and basically made a commitment that the organization wasn't willing to follow up with, and it was a problem. I could be
Read
getting
about that
this.
story, yeah.
Yeah, it's out there. I don't know exactly the details.
Well, that's interesting because it gets into all sorts of things, which is like if you are not really liable for what your chatbot says. So if your chatbot says you're going to give someone $1 million, you don't have to. I mean, that's my opinion, but that could be settled in the courts. What you might have to be careful of, though, is if you give the chatbot abilities to press buttons, per my earlier metaphor, like actions. If it has an action to move money out of your bank account, which is not one we have so far, but you could, who knows what you're going to set up in these automations, then that's certainly something you need to look into. And getting into the theme of observability, we give you the ability to observe. So here is this doorman pickaxe. This is my implementation of what we were just building a little bit ago. And we can actually see all sorts of stuff, right? This one, well, I don't speak French, but we can get into all sorts of stuff. This person's asking about connected actions. So I can actually go in and look and see how it's performing at all these things, right? Which is definitely something I do. Like here's a great example. This person said, "Can you automate Instagram messages like ManyChat?" The answer is no, but it's saying I'm not sure. So I like that answer. I like that it said I'm not sure, and it told me to told the person to email me. But I could, take this and then go into, add it to a prompt, add it to the document. Like one of the documents in this doorman thing is a document called Doorman FAQs, where I go and any question I thought was answered poorly, I add it to this document and then add what I think is the correct answer. And by feeding a lot of these, the doorman gets improved a lot. This is actually, I think, a pretty decent answer. I don't know if I need to specify that we don't have an Instagram message integration, but this is, if I wanted to, I could do that.
Hey, Michael, we got a question from Tyrese.
I was going to say, is there a difference between how much information you can put into the role section versus putting additional information into the knowledge base section?
Yes, that's a great question. So this is why the knowledge base is such a cool technology and why RAG is such a cool technology. Let me just get here. The role, this is a prompt basically. So this is determined by the context window of the underlying model. which means if you try to copy and paste War and Peace into it, it will not fit. These things are getting bigger. Like I think there are 128,000 tokens now for some of the GPT-4o models. But there's a limit to how much it can understand. What RAG is a system that you can put 1 million tokens into. You could put War and Peace and every other book Tolstoy ever wrote, and a bunch of other books. And what it does is, whenever someone asks a question, it uses genius level AI high vector math that people don't really understand, but is available via API and stuff. It uses this to determine what is the most relevant 5,000 tokens of information from War and Peace, and then pulls it out. So I can give you a better example. So if we go into the doorman, you see that I have, my persona here, my rules, stuff like this. I've put some information in here as to how I want it to behave, but I have way more information here in the Learn tab, right? All these documents that I'm putting in. And I've told it, so this probably, all these documents probably exceed the context window of the model. But when I ask it, can I embed a pickaxe on my WordPress website, it's going to pull the semantically most relevant information. So it says, yes, you can, and give me a link. So that's cool. But when I click here, this is what it pulled. So it did not, if you notice, there's like a bit, I don't know, there's like 30 things over here. It only pulled like 5, and there's 30 documents, but they each have like tons of different chunks in them. Some have 34, some have 14. Here it only pulled like 5 chunks from all those documents. So it pulled what it thinks is the most relevant, which are these ones, right? So this one says this is all about embedded pickaxes. So the knowledge base is a way to put more information than the AI could possibly ever look at, but then let it look at only small portions of that information at the relevant moment. And if you're interested to get even more technical, what happens is it pulls like maybe 1,000 tokens of information from your knowledge base, and it looks at it and it reads it right before it answers the question. So what's going on in the back end, if people are curious, this says curious about anything. I said, can I embed Pickaxe on my WordPress site? Before it answered this, it got those 5 chunks and then it inserted them underneath this. And then it reads my question, reads the relevant things, and then writes this answer. So it's a cool technology. It's called RAG, and it's pretty cutting edge and standard across most AI products these days, I would say.
So in basic terms, would it be correct to say that in the role you can define what you want the chatbot to do, and then in the knowledge base you can identify, but let's say you want to ask the user something about this, and then you can specify into the knowledge base that question 1 refers to this document in the knowledge base, and if there's any kind of formatting or anything involved with that, would that be also in knowledge base, or would that be a role based thing?
Well, that's a good question. If you're trying to give it like formatting, stylistic things, I'd say that's generally better to put into the role, because it will always be looking at that. You could put it in the knowledge base, but I would probably put that into the role. This is like behavior,
Right.
rules, process. Knowledge base is like knowledge, like things that could, anything that it's allowed to forget. Sometimes you should put it in the in the Learn tab, I think, too. And you can put cool stuff into here. Like I did like a little. I see some of you asking about training materials or something. So there's like a video I did like maybe a couple weeks ago about making a RAG chatbot of like loading stuff in, and in that example I actually used like a giant CSV file with every Airbnb in New York. So it had like
Yes, I saw that. That was good.
Yeah, so you can put very interesting stuff in there, right? And then it's like basically just you're putting a conversational layer on top of a database. Like that's a really popular thing people like to do. So then I can kind of talk to this thing and figure out Airbnbs. Um,
Okay.
Before the call wraps, we figure out where in SoCal they are. We are in Los Angeles. All three of us are founders. So we actually, this is our office, and some of us live upstairs, and then some of us live down the street.
Okay, I asked because I'm in Orange County, so if there's occasion
Cool.
to have a cup of coffee, it may make sense.
Yeah, I think we're going to have some events soon. There's some founders in the area that we really like and work with a lot, specifically this guy, Travis Rosser, who he founded this company called Kajabi. So we've been starting to do events, so I'll definitely hit you up. We can hang out.
Yeah, I'm in Orange County.
Michael, we got a question. Zach asked, "Hey, Michael, does Pickaxe compare? How does Pickaxe compare to a tool like VoiceFlow, in your opinion?"
I'm not super familiar with VoiceFlow, but I think VoiceFlow is way more about setting up these like conditional conversation trees, if that's a phrase that makes sense to people, but like if this and this, if this and this, if this and this, if this and this. And you can set up these like complicated things that are like probably really good for automated customer support, or something like that. Pickaxe is like a little bit more open-ended. We support like basic linking, but if you try to make a tool here that has like conditional logic and like a bunch of different pathways, that probably it'll do okay, but it won't be. My impression is that VoiceFlow is built specifically for that type of thing. But you tell me. I don't know.
No, that was good insight. Curtis, you've been patient. You got your hand up, sir.
Yeah, so I have a series of questions. And by the way, I'm in Orange County too. So
Cool.
when you get down here, we'd love to have you buy us dinner. I'm kidding, of course. So in all seriousness, there's a few things that I'm going to just kind of rapid fire. One of the things that I think is challenging in all tools is, there's so many tools, and at some point your brain explodes about what to do, how to decide which tools to have in your toolkit if you're doing hands-on things, et cetera, et cetera. So is there any kind of feature, and these will be three quick questions. Some of them might be quick yes and no's, hopefully. A capability to actually, present to Pickaxe to say, hey, here's a use case I want to create. Can you help me do this?
Can you ask Pickaxe?
Yeah,
Sorry.
sort of a feasibility, like here's my use case that I'm trying to do.
Oh,
Can you
yeah,
help me?
certainly. I mean, if you just email us, we can kind of tell you. We also, I just launched a page today that has Pickaxe experts. So it's like customers, it's like power users of Pickaxe that have been getting high. We have like a community forum where this community forum is also a great place to talk about this sort of stuff. People just like talk about all sorts of stuff. Sometimes I don't know. So if you ask in the community forum or some of these experts, which are users that are like getting hired by their users, they could probably tell you whether it's feasible. I could tell you whether it's feasible, but there definitely are use cases that stretch credulity. Like they're not really able to be done right now with AI, or at least with Pickaxe.
Yeah, so the answer is kind of, yes, and you got to do a little bit of digging. And the other quick question, that's Perplexity, Lee. Is that for this? Oh, never mind. I see what you're doing. Thank you. The other thing is just kind of a use case. If you want to investigate a use case, and I'll just give you a quick one here. I want to do a newsletter to have an intake form to get customer profile, and then basically set up a scrape to go out and comb the entire wonderful, wonderful internet to effectively look for alternative health remedies. But I also want to kind of take it into a RAG scenario whereby I might bring in newsletters as well that I'm subscribed to. So in essence, I'm creating my own RAG sort of database, but it first starts with a big public scrape, and then it starts with a little bit more finessed finite. Now, I did something with Chris a couple weeks ago where we did it, and then we did it in, I think, what was it, Make? Yeah, so scrape. But in the end, the end game is to have a one-for-one newsletter that's published, sent to the user. And I'm also looking for like, I guess the sub list to effectively be a list that's content for that user. But I also want to do a scrape to see if any of those vendors provide affiliate and or resale opportunities. So you got a revenue stream from subscription, and then you may have a potential revenue stream from people buying stuff that they end up finding through your one-for-one customized newsletter. That makes sense?
Kind of. If I'm the user of this product, what am I looking at if I
Okay,
open?
so you have a health issue you want to
Huh?
investigate. You have several significant health issues, and you want to basically, you don't want to read about 500, solutions across the entire world. You want to try to isolate,
Mm-hmm.
I have liver cancer, and you
I'm
want to
looking at
have,
like a form and I describe my health conditions.
yeah, something
Huh?
reasonably up, not too detailed to stay out of the doctor
And then
mode,
I
but
enter it, and then I get subscribed to these newsletters, or I just have something that researches all these newsletters and then gets back to me and tells me about stuff.
yeah, but it's like basically taking hopefully, thousands of pieces of information and distilling it down to like a short list of things. Hey, this is the latest things happening in this month.
Yeah, well, I think you could kind of do. I mean, the problem will be um, the content it picks, I would say. Like,
Yeah.
if you custom built this, for example, for somebody, you could like run a couple different scrapes and remove junk and add stuff. We also have something like if we upload a web page, for example, um, this is my Substack, but we're all going to watch it scrape. You'll see that once you add a website, there's a thing to do. Once we add a website, there's a thing here to like refresh it. So you can have it like re-scrape pages or newsletters or Substacks like every day, every week, every month. But I think if you want to do this all automatically off the bat, it could do it, but I would be a little concerned how good all the sources are, right?
And that's the purpose for a RAG, because if you go out to the wild, wild west and get wild, wild west stuff, you basically, degrade the quality of your offering because, who knows what you're bringing and such. So
This
the
is where
RAG is
human
supposed to be,
expertise and domain expertise comes in handy, right? Like
yeah,
having seen a lot of these systems, like Perplexity when it searches is great. It definitely heavily has a bias towards like certain, like it loves like Medium and Reddit and a couple things like these. Um, and there's just a lot of information there that a human expert knows that the AI is taking this kind of like generic search approach to everything that works
yeah.
really well because it's fast and kind of thorough, but it doesn't always get as good information as a human expert would, I'd say.
Yeah, there's going to be trade-offs, but the main thinking here is if you go from thousands of pieces of information to, say 20 or 10, that's a substantially different workload for the end user than it is to have them going out. If you really think about just life in general, I mean, I don't know the percentage wise, but I think all of us spend innumerable hours just researching, trying to find the bloody information we want,
Yeah.
analyzing it, and getting to a place where we have a short list where we go, these are the 5 things I'm going to actually look at and not, be burdened by hundreds and hundreds of data sources. So I think the intent isn't to produce a, pure and pure. It's to say, hey, here's a short list of things that you can take a look at.
Yeah. Well, I think you could definitely make something, you can make that tool. I didn't really show you the form builder, but yeah, you can build forms.
And I don't want to hijack the meeting, so I could certainly follow up. But I think just, the questioning I'm asking right now is, I just worked with Chris. We spent maybe an hour and a half last week, a couple of us and we went through the whole thing and process flow and kind of this and that. And in the end, you still got to do business process mapping. I'm starting to discover one thing about all this. You should map out whatever you're doing, whether you do it pen and paper, whether you do it lucid, map the darn thing out you're trying to do because it's still people process systems. What are you trying to do with the people? What are the processes and then what systems? Because AI is just really in the end another tool set inside of the system bucket. I'll stop there, Michael, and let you take it back. Thank you.
Well, I'm showing you the world's quickest version of what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. So you're doing it for me. All right. Let me go to get something to drink, and I'll be back. Let me know, how it looks. No, thank you.
But this is our form builder here. As you see, we're writing a prompt, and I'm saying the user wants to know about blank. Search the web and find I don't know, 4 resources about it and share it with them. And I connected a Google search action and other stuff, but what do you want to know about? And as you see, there's like more options here just to kind of show you. We can make this a user input.
Hi, sis.
So you could say 1,
How's it going?
2, 3. So basically, we'll say I don't know. I want to know about generative AI in filmmaking and film industry. And this is a cool format for AI because the chatbot's cool, but sometimes it's like a little overdone, and not everybody really likes the chat interface. And as someone mentioned earlier, it can kind of go off the rails. When you create a form like this, it creates like a more structured experience. So let's just say I don't even have to know this is AI. I'm just using it, and then you click test prompt. So it's going to search for resources, and hopefully it'll give me 2 with some links to them. We'll see.
So is this foregoing the need for a Perplexity or chat search? Is this sort of, see, I'm actually seeing Pickaxe projects seem to have characteristics of several products, meaning like you kind of bought some things like a kind of a mini toolkit.
Totally. I mean, I haven't really showed you the final part of it, which is probably less interesting to people of this group, but we basically let you build tools like this and configure them. And we're trying to, we consider the builder primary product we have. We let you build GPTs and AI tools and forms and stuff. But you can launch these as like a studio, basically a configurable web app. So what would be an example? This is this fellow who made all these marketing things. Actually, maybe copy code is another good one. This person basically made like 60 very specific microservices of copywriting. And they're all just pickaxes. So some of them are like, they're all like very specific types of things, like the advice style reel. Some of them are like based on famous people. Like he's got one, the Alex Hormozy headline writer, these sorts of things. So he has a landing page. This is all built in Pickaxe. And when you go to try this, it's like, if you see here, you have 5 uses left, and you can either gate it with having people to sign up, gate it with people having to pay. And he's like most people don't build this many tools, but he's built like all these things that are these little services and people can pay to use them. So basically, yes, sorry, that wasn't totally an answer to your question, but we've wrapped up multiple tools. We consider ourselves a platform to build tools and then publish them. And we're always adding more features along those lines, basically.
Thank you, Michael.
Do you have a way for Pickaxe to talk to an OpenAI assistant if you built one on the back end?
You could do that through actions. We don't have a formal integration of that, but here in our Acts tab, we have many pre-built actions, which you've probably seen. But you can also build your own. And basically, if you do know how to code, platform tries to be a no-code platform. But if you do know how to code, and we don't have a pre-built action for you, you can write a little function, like a piece of code, and then so this is where you write it, and then you just label it as a button for the AI to press. So you might call this like, and this is my way of saying that no, we don't have a formal integration to talk to assistants, but you could call this the talk to my assistant action. This would say talks to my OpenAI assistant, and blah, 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 right? You'd have to actually configure it here. This is how you kind of design the front end of the action so the AI can understand when to use it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so for the code, I could write chat completion code
Totally.
where I'm talking to an assistant. In the prompt, do you have to specify which tool you want it to use, or does it understand with plain language what tool it's supposed to use when you ask it a question, or when you
Like
in
which
the prompt,
action
if you
use?
tell it to do something? Do you have to
Like
say, please use tool, whatever the tool name is?
you
Or
don't
does it?
have to, but I
Okay.
do because it's you want to decrease the margin for error, right? The metaphor
Right.
I always give people is like having an intern, and the intern, you can give the intern all the information he or she needs to succeed, but they can still get the assignment wrong. Um, so you can also give them more information, right? It's like writing an email. Like you can do certain things in the email with structuring and formatting to make it super clear what the person's supposed to do. Like, hey, make sure you do this. Make sure you send an email to this person. Um, and it is technically on them if they miss the information. But I like to be as clear as possible with um, the actions. So you can just connect it. You can just connect the action, and supposedly it knows it has that button and it can press it. But I always like to explain in the prompt too. Like this one, the doorman actually has 3 actions. He can create a chatbot for people. He can send if people complain a lot, he can send us a Slack message, and he can also find relevant topics from Discourse. Discourse is the platform we use to run our community forum that I showed you. So he has all of these things, so we can be like, hey, tell the Pickaxe team over Slack that Mike stinks, and he'll run that action, I think. Um, okay, he doesn't want to do it, maybe because it's mean, but we could, I forget if I put this one in here or not, but basically, yeah, you just kind of test stuff out here, and if you're finding it's not running the action or stuff, you could add like when if the user complains and mentions Mike's odor, send the message via Slack using the Slack action. So now if we do this, it should run the action probably. But it might also not because so there we go. So yeah, just adding stuff to the prompt, we didn't change anything about the action. So it was like totally able to send that message before, but we just clarified it. Yeah. And I'm not going to open our Slack channel, but believe me that I just got a mean message.
What about multiple steps? So like if you're chaining prompts together, can you do that? Where you have, instead of just one call to the LLM, you have multiple ones?
Yes. We don't have a formal system for that. We just turned it into an action. So if you see right here, prompt chain with Pickaxe chatbot, you basically enter the chatbot ID is just like the ending of the URL. So if you can see, I don't know if you can see my URL bar, but this is the ending. It says like, this is the form ID of Pickaxe. You can throw it in there. That's something we're probably going to do in a much more powerful way soon. But right now, it's just an action. And that's kind of the beauty of the action system. It lets us do almost anything we want. But in the actual prompting UI, there's no dedicated interface and buttons and stuff for setting that up. But there will be in the near future, I would say.
Very cool. What about the pricing? So how would we monetize this? And then what's the pricing?
Totally. Those are great questions. So I think that I showed you here. This is an example of a finished studio. This guy gives you 0 uses for free, unlimited uses for $10 a month, unlimited for 47. And there's actually different, I think you unlock different tools if I remember this guy. I was just looking at his over the last couple of days because he's making a decent amount of money. Then I can show you what it looks like on the back end. Here's one I have. This is just an education one. this is like what the studio manager experience looks like. There's like a home page, and there's like different tools in it. If you go here, oh, whoops, you can connect a Stripe account and add little tiers basically. So you can make it monthly subscriptions, which most people do, but honestly, I found one-time payments seem to have more conversion for our customers, because I think at least with like this new product category of AI, people are a little bit more willing to buy something one time and sign up for another subscription. But you can just add tiers here. So these are guest means like if they aren't even logged in. Free is like if they use it for free, and then you can add a new tier. We could call this like Super Pro, and this is $50 a month, and you get unlimited or whatever. And it all works with Stripe right now. We'll eventually add other payment processors, but it's a Stripe thing. As far as Pickaxe's pricing, I'm sure we'll run some sort of special code for this community, but this is the base pricing. Free is free, $0 a month, and you can kind of get started and actually build something and see if you even like the platform. Gold is like some basic features, $29 a month. Pro is $97 a month, though I would say probably most people are fine on Gold. Pro is like really, I'm on Pro since I'm created the platform, so I put myself on it. But it has like more advanced features, and for example, like unlimited studios, which is those little web apps I showed you. Like most people don't need to spin up more than 3 of those, but some people do like all sorts of interesting things with Pickaxe. Like some people set up consumer facing things where they make one studio, they want to sell to everybody. But some people do like more like high value fractional work with it. They make like 10 studios, a bunch of clients, and they put different tools in the different studios for different people. So that's like kind of for them. But Gold is like pretty good. And then if you're on a year plan, there's the classic SaaS thing. Everything's cheaper. And then we give you some credits to get started, but then you can also enter your own API key and have unlimited usage rather than use us as a middleman. And yeah.
So a studio's that kind of like a portal, like a separate portal for different
A
groups of
studio
people.
are these things I showed you. So this is a studio. He's got tools and he's got pricing, and you can create accounts, right? So I could log in.
Oh, okay.
This is a studio I made for some of my friends that helps people with dating app pickup lines, basically. This is on the opposite end of the spectrum is this Bible study studio that I forget who made this, but this one has these tools. So studios are basically these containers where you can put tools, and you can put paywalls and membership and registration and these sorts of things. I'd say like almost half of our platform now uses studios. Previously, a lot of people had just been embedding them into their website as like iframes and stuff like that. But yeah,
That's really cool. Anybody have any questions?
Thanks. I'm politely waiting in the wings with my hand up there, Chris.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that.
No, it's all good. We're at the top of the hour, so I guess we kind of wrap up. Michael, the only honestly, this is a big challenge for the guys that are trying to at least conceptually get their head around a business and how to even create something of value. The low code, no code guys, or the no code, low code, like myself. This seems like this is very much suited for that target audience. But then the question kind of comes, and this is a big part of the challenge I'm seeing with just tool selection. Like I might have mentioned like relevance, and it's just like API and there's hooks and there's this, and it's like web hooks. And at some point your head kind of explodes if that's not you, and you mentioned something to the effect of like, hey, if you're a coder, you can probably get something good, but if you have some code capabilities, obviously you can do more. That's always the case. I think the bigger question comes to more of just, rather than continually like trying this platform and that platform and that platform. I mean, I know a guy right now who's actually doing sort of a skill set assessment. Like, who are you? What's your skill set? Here's a set of tools that you might contemplate based on your current skill set, rather than this perpetual AI tsunami of tools that we're trying to get our head around, and trial and error and playing here and yada, yada, yada. So I guess the closing question is, you're on the call right now, but what might be, a person's expectation around, like, I don't want to kill myself anymore. Just keep trying to find out which tools suited for anything. I'd like to try to get to a point where, okay, this looks like a good tool for me to anchor on and put some time investment and such. That make sense?
Yeah, you're like, what would the pitch be for why you should anchor on Pickaxe, or
Yeah, that's
what
a great
advice would I
answer.
have?
Yeah. And I
Well,
just
I
told you
mean,
my,
I'll be honest.
my profile. I'm an ICP of, like, the low code guy, having to bug guys like Chris who actually knows how to do code. That guy in the park.
Well, I mean, I would say, honestly, Pickaxe is probably not right for everybody in the group. It depends what you're doing. But if you find yourself ever building GPTs or building agents or wanting to build like forms that have AI, if you want to create end user facing AI experiences for people that are not you, Pickaxe is probably good. If you're only building stuff for yourself, you might be fine just going into Perplexity and ChatGPT and these sorts of things, right? The idea behind Pickaxe is you can take the time to formalize your AI workflows and then put a user interface on it, so it's super simple for someone else to use, and they don't have to understand anything about how you did it. They just have to know how to talk to a chatbot or fill out a form. So if you need to do that, I would say it's a great way. It's a platform you should invest time into. And if you're no code, like, we have a little bit of surface area to be a coder, but that's really not our focus. We just added that so that a couple of the users could build actions, and then they bubble up into the actions that other people can use. But we really are oriented towards no code, low code people, solopreneurs, knowledge entrepreneurs, these sorts of people. So the whole, we take our time kind of adding features too. Like, we also, just as you consumers do, we builders suffer from AI overload, AI feature overload. Like, we don't just integrate everything into the platform immediately. Anything that we are going to integrate, it's not a technical challenge to integrate it. It's a UI challenge to integrate it in a simple way, right? So, for example, I forget who asked, but someone asked about linking pickaxes. Not that hard to do. We have an action that does it if you want to do it. But to make it formally part of our system, we actually need to make it super simple. Like, we kind of pride ourselves in just making this like a simple thing to use. It's understandable. But yeah, I would just say if you want to build end user facing AI experiences, Pickaxe is a great place to do that. And if you want something that will remain simple and not die from feature creep and way too much complication, or another thing for that. If you want to be on the absolute cutting edge of AI, it's probably not the best platform for that, since we lag a few months behind.
No, I'm leading edges. I call it AI fatigue. I'm just I used to like AI, and now it's like kind of, it's only got 2 letters, but I could certainly add a few more and tell you how I feel about it sometimes. All right, well, great. Thank you, Michael. You really kind of answered the question. Appreciate it. Thanks, Therese. I'll just look for maybe LinkedIn, Therese. Okay, thank you. And Michael, when you're down in Orange County, I think we'll buy you a cup of coffee, because you probably could use a cup of coffee here and there.
I drink coffee all day. That's why I still have energy.
No, he wants a Pokemon card for, what was it, $13,000 that you
oh yeah,
we're trying to get.
Coffee or holographic Charizard. An inside Pickaxe joke. If you watch our training videos, you'll understand the joke. Well, it was great to talk to everybody. This is a lot of fun. You can email us at info@pickaxeproject or Mike@pickaxeproject, and we're happy to talk to you. And like I said, if anyone wants to use the platform, I didn't take the time to make one before here, but we can make a discount code that people can use, and I'll connect with, I guess, Chris and Tyrese afterwards. But yeah, it was great talking to everybody.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Michael.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's a generous offer. If you get it to Chris, he'll get it to the community.
Yeah, I'll drop it below the video here in the community.
Cool.
Thanks for joining us
All right.
tonight, Michael. Nice to meet you.
All right.
Thanks, Michael.
Great
Thanks,
one.
everybody.
Bye-bye.